TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. A deadly Palestinian terror attack claims the life of a pregnant mother who was on her way to the delivery room. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz highlights that German nationals are also in Hamas captivity. President Donald Trump says his Turkish counterpart, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, convinced him to remove sanctions on the HTS regime in Damascus. Deadly Palestinian terror plagued the northern Samaria district last night, claiming the life of an Israeli mother in labor and wounding the father. At approximately 10 p.m. last night, while en route to the delivery room on the road between the communities of Bruchin and Peduel, a Palestinian terror operative opened fire toward the Israeli couple's vehicle, critically wounding 30-year-old Se'ela Gez, while her husband sustained light wounds before the terrorist managed to flee the scene. Emergency medical units immediately rushed Se'ela to Petah Tikva's Rabin Medical Center, where doctors, during life-saving treatment, performed a C-section in an effort to save the infant's life. Immediately upon the baby's birth, doctors successfully resuscitated the infant, after which the baby was transferred to Schneider Hospital for further treatment. Nevertheless, with deep regret, shortly after dawn this morning, the hospital pronounced that Se'ela Gez had indeed succumbed to her wounds. Se'ela is survived by 4 children, to include her newborn infant and her husband, Hananel, who was admitted to hospital in light condition. Meanwhile, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir held a preliminary inquiry at the scene of the terror attack in Samaria, together with the commanders of the IDF Central Command and the Judea and Samaria Division, among others. General Zamir instructed the troops to continue the encirclement, curfew, and search for the terrorists along the ongoing counterterrorism operations that are already taking place in the area. He stressed further, quote, "We will use all the tools at our disposal and reach the murderers in order to hold them accountable." Turning to Israel's southern community of Be'eri, which was subject to the devastating massacre during the heinous onslaught by the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates on October 7th of 2023, Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog and his wife Michal were joined in Be'eri by German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and his wife Elke Bündenbender, during the course of which they laid a wreath in honor of the victims, all the while celebrating efforts by the residents of Be'eri with joint Israeli, German, and other support to rebuild the devastated community.
We feel that this project is a joint project of ours to bring life back to this wonderful community.
585 days after the massacre, there are still hostages in the hands of Hamas, including German companions. Their fate is an open wound. Germany will not forget them, and I will not forget them. Our voice will not remain silent as long as they have not returned. At the same time, today we hear in a very real way the detonations in Gaza, and we know innocent people are suffering there too, children are dying there too. Violence, terrorism, and destruction must never have the last word. Our humanity must be stronger.
Meanwhile, in Berlin, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, during a joint press conference with visiting UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, highlighted the fact that a number of the living hostages in Hamas captivity are in fact dual Israeli-German nationals, and underscored that Berlin is concerned for their lives.
We understand that Israel must defend itself against the terror of Hamas, that Israel must also crack down.
But we also always ask to bear in mind that there are still hostages in the hands of Hamas. Among them are a number of hostages of German origin. We want to see these hostages alive again. And that's why we have to take them into account in what the Israeli army is doing now.
The United Nations Secretary General, for his part, seized the opportunity to once again reiterate his frequent call for an immediate release of all hostages, along with an immediate ceasefire and creating the conditions for an irreversible path towards a two-state solution.
In relation to Gaza, I reiterate my call for an immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, unimpeded humanitarian access, and an immediate cessation of hostilities, allowing for an irreversible path towards a two-state solution.
Meanwhile, ahead of landing in Qatar yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted on board the presidential aircraft Air Force One that his team was doing everything in its power to secure the release of additional hostages after Qatari pressure on Hamas secured the release of dual Israeli-American IDF soldier Idan Alexander.
Idan out, his family was so thankful. We did a good job with it. We'll continue to do it.
It is important to know that an Israeli delegation is currently in the Qatari capital of Doha for mediated talks on efforts to secure the release of the hostages from Hamas captivity. However, according to the Qatari Foreign Ministry, the talks were still in a preliminary stage. Moreover, per its statement, Doha highlighted that while the challenges are large, President Trump's visit to Doha revived the talk. It is interesting to know that circulating reports regarding President Trump's dealings in the Gulf are construed by separate actors as the American leader's decision to sideline the State of Israel. Nevertheless, when asked whether it was true, President Trump rejected the notion.
You're not going to Israel. Does this trip sideline Israel at all?
No. This is good for Israel. Having a relationship like I have with these countries, the Middle Eastern countries, essentially all of them, I think it's very good for Israel.
Can I ask?
President Trump was further asked whether his decision to remove sanctions on Syria after a meeting with the de facto ruler of Damascus, Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, was coordinated with Israel.
Well, in touch. I mean, we told him we're doing it. The reason I did it, and I think it's been very popular, actually, certainly in the Middle East it's been popular, virtually everybody. But the reason I did it is because I spoke with President Erdogan, who I get along with very well, and I spoke to Mohammed, as you know, I was with him, and they thought it was very important to do. It gives them a much better chance of survival as a country.
Can you share what Netanyahu thinks about it?
Well, I think what's happened is Turkey feels we should do it. Other countries don't. If you looked at my speech last time, which I assume most of you were at, I think the biggest applause was when I said that we're lifting these sanctions on Syria, and that's because they want to give Syria a chance to live and to be great, etc.
Meanwhile, in Damascus, Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, also known as Ahmed al-Shara, addressed the Syrian people following his meeting with President Trump.
Today, I am not only celebrating the lifting of sanctions on Syria. Our joy lies in the sincere brotherhood and the return of fervent feelings among the people of the region, its kings, princes, and presidents. President Trump, thankfully, responded to this love. The decision to lift the sanctions was a historic, courageous decision that alleviated the suffering of the people, helped in their renaissance, and laid the foundations for stability in the region.
Al-Julani, who has yet to consolidate his power over the majority of Syria and its people, continued by highlighting the international pledges to invest in Syria, which was subsequently reinforced by Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud.
Certainly, Syria will not be alone. Saudi Arabia and our other international partners will be at the forefront of supporting this movement and this economic revival. There will be efforts to support certain aspects, but also investments in development support. What we want to see is Syria building a sustainable economy and developing the ability to be self-sufficient. All of this is possible. It just needs a push now.
وهذا كله متاح. هي تحتاج دفعة الآن.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, we would appreciate it if you'd consider making a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you as ever, pray for the hostages in Hamas captivity and for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.